There was a piece of legislation that came up later in that year, had to do with the issue of abortion, something called partial birth abortion. It's a horrible procedure. The baby is late in pregnancy, is delivered all but the head, and then killed while the doctor's holding the baby outside, right? Everything but the head is delivered. It's a horrific procedure of killing a child late in pregnancy. And I saw that and I thought, ooh, can't believe that's illegal here in this country. And then people would defend it. And so I felt this need to go down there and say something. Just so you understand, I mean, I was a pro-life guy, I voted the right way all the time, but I would never say that word. Never say the word abortion, never talk about the word abortion, never. Because when you do that, then you're getting into morality and you're getting into these very sensitive areas where people get real upset if their politicians weigh into this stuff. It's one thing they'll sort of be okay if you vote that way, but if you start really talking about it, if you start leading on these things, well, then people really don't like that. They don't like their politicians to be involved in those things. Now, not just the folks who oppose, but even people who are sort of, they just don't talk about that stuff. And so when a politician steps in that and you start talking about things about life and death and the sanctity of all human life and how we have to deal with these very sensitive issues, you get beat up. The media hates you. Let me just put it this way. When I started to take on these issues, my kids, after reading the paper for a while, thought my first name had been changed to Ultra. Because I became the ultra-conservative senator from Pennsylvania. I was always a conservative. I was a radical. I was a zealot. And I knew that. Because I'd seen that happen to other people. Anybody who ever steps in this area, you just get labeled. And so I always stayed away from it until I learned something. I learned that God speaks in whispers. And when you get close to Him, you hear what He has to call on you in your life. And I found that. It was amazing. My life went from some conservative who was a hard charger on the road. I was on the road, folks. I was 36 years old, United States Senate, representing the state of Pennsylvania, won a bunch of tough elections. And they were talking, oh, this guy's future is unlimited. Then I started to talk about abortion. All of a sudden, they started saying, oh, this guy's, he's cooked his goose. He's never going to win re-election again. He's gone off to the crazies. He sold it, he sold out to his future. I'll never forget the blessings that occurred. When God gives you a task, He doesn't give you a task saying, okay, here's this task I'm telling you to do, and you're going to win. He doesn't guarantee you'll win. Let me assure you that. He doesn't guarantee you'll be successful. In fact, I fought this battle of partial birth abortion year after year after year and lost. Oh, we passed the bill President Clinton would veto. We tried to override his veto. Wouldn't work. Same thing year after year. 3 years in a row. We did 3 sessions of Congress in a row. Then eventually the Supreme Court struck it down and we were done. It was it. We were going to lose. But throughout the course of that debate, here's what I found. That if you went out there and you were faithful, that God would be faithful. Yes. And I went out and poured my heart into these debates. Some of the YouTube, Rick Santorum, partial birth abortion, you'll see some of the incredibly passionate, and sometimes emotional and rancorous debates that occurred over this issue. But it had a huge impact. For the first time since Roe versus Wade, public attitudes on abortion began to change. Why? Because we were talking the truth. Yeah. In a partial birth abortion, you can't miss the fact that that little thing is a baby. For the first time, the eyes of the American public were opened up to what the truth is behind abortion. And it wasn't a way that was mean or rancorous, but just simply the humanity of that child. And we were losing but we were winning. Eventually we did, after President Bush came in, we did pass a bill and we were able to get partial birth abortions banned in this country. So ultimately we won. But the greater victories in my mind was just going out and walking the journey. And that's what I've learned in my life, is that I'll give you, there's so many stories that happened during those debates. One was during 1996, and I had been debating on the floor of the United States Senate for 6 hours on this issue, and it was 8 o'clock at night, and we were about to wrap up the Senate, and I was told that we would have the vote the next morning. And at that time, we were 2 votes short of what we needed to override President Clinton's veto. And so I sat there as they were preparing the closing script for me to read before the Senate went out of session, and it just had this overwhelming weight that I had to say more. That maybe there were 2 senators who would go home tonight and turn on C-SPAN 2 because they don't have a life and watch me on TV. Right? And so I ran to the cloakroom. Back then we didn't have cell phones back then. So I ran to what we did, but they were like these big things. So I ran back to the cloakroom, got on the phone, called my wife. Like I said, it was 8:30 at night, and I said, we had, at the time, we just had our 4th baby. She was holding her and she was crying. And I got on the phone and I told her what was going on. And I said, I really feel like I'm called to say more. And in spite of all of the things that were going on at the home, that I had been gone since 5:30 that morning, Karen said what she always says, which is you do whatever you feel you're called to do. So I went back out there and I said, I remember there was only one other person in the chair, but that's the guy sitting in the chair who has to preside over the Senate. And I said, I'll only be half an hour. 2 hours later, don't worry. After speaking about what I was talking about, was that there were many people who came to us during this debate to tell us their story. Never forget, because partial birth abortion is a late-term procedure that the other side would argue needed to be legal, because women would find out late in their pregnancies that the baby that they were expecting had a problem, a disability, or maybe even wasn't going to live very long. And so as a result, they didn't want to carry that child. They wanted to kill that child because they didn't want the burden of having to deal with a disabled child, or a child that might die. I remember having these incredible discussions about how they were just arguing that we needed to keep this in place because children weren't perfect. Because they weren't perfect, they should be able to be euthanized, killed, aborted. I remember getting a letter from a young man who had spina bifida from London who was watching the debate. And I remember him writing to me saying, I sit here and I listen to people argue about why this procedure should be kept legal to kill people like me. And it was worse. We had mothers writing in, talking to us, telling us about their saga of having a child with a disability diagnosed in the womb, and they couldn't find a doctor to deliver the baby. They couldn't find a doctor who wanted to deal with the liability of dealing with that baby, or a hospital that would deliver because of the risk associated with that child. And so what I did that night was tell their stories of these mothers who persevered and had these children who were supposed to be non-functioning or a problem, and told of the amazing lives that these children had. Difficult ones, yes, but amazing ones. Well, the next morning we had our vote. I got home that night, everybody was asleep. Got up the next morning, 5 o'clock, out at 5:30. And we had our vote, we lost by 2 votes. I remember sitting there at my desk and thinking, I'm a complete failure. I was a horrible dad, didn't get home again another night. I was a horrible husband. I was prideful in thinking that my great oration could make all the difference. So the rest of that day was sort of a fun for me until about 2 days later, I got an email. was from a young man from Michigan State University, and this is what it said. Wednesday night, we were flipping through the channels. My girlfriend and I were sitting on the couch together, and we saw you standing there next to a picture of a kid with disabilities, and we stopped and wanted to listen to what you had to say. And you went through his story and talked about this horrible procedure of partial birth. And so I looked down and I saw my girlfriend crying. And I asked her, "Why are you crying?" And she says, "I'm pregnant. And I have an abortion scheduled for Friday. And I wasn't going to tell you. But I'm not going to have an abortion anymore." Amen. He said, "You may have lost the fight to overturn President Clinton's veto. But by standing there and witnessing, you saved the life of my child."
We kept trying to override, but I got 12, 13 Democrats to vote for us. One by one. They didn't start out that way, but one by one they came over. Why? Because I went to the floor doing some pounded away.
For years, a terrible form of violence has been directed against children who are inches from birth, while the law looked the other way. Today, at last, the American people and our government have confronted the violence and come to the defense of the innocent child. There are a lot of members of the Senate and House here today. I want to thank you all for passing this important legislation. Primary Senate sponsors with us, Senator Santorum.